Hello everybody, welcome back to the YouTube channel. Today again for speech and debate, we will be talking about how will choices about how to address an audience influence your decisions on putting together a speech. So there's some main points you need to establish before you can even make your speech or think about it. So first, why? How are we going to get our audience interested in what we're going to do? As well as establish good communication. Make sure you know your audience's beliefs, their values, and their exposure, what they've heard before, what they've been through, as well as their situational characteristics. For example, president addressing an audience, he has to pretty much speak to everybody's beliefs, everybody's in a way that he sorry, let me restart. Situational characteristics such as the audience's situational characteristics. So the audience's knowledge, how the audience's beliefs, and how the speaker, which is us, is going to be speaking. Like what kind of language are we going to be using, and the consubstantiality, which is pretty much a speech setting, like the audience size and the audience's location. For example, business meeting, where you're going to be a lot more formal. You're going to speak a lot more formal, as opposed to a classroom where you can be a little bit more passive. You can say words that the whole class is going to relate to, because you know everybody kind of stays within the norm. As well as paying attention to the audience demographics, the time of speech, whether it's a mobile audience, like you're just speaking at say you're just trying to speak at an open conference, like an open job, the job fairs, where they're trying to get people to come to their job. They kind of have to speak on a basis of no matter what, even if somebody walks by, they still have to keep speaking. They still have to keep trying to grab some kind of audience members. But also, if it's another demographic, is like a stationary audience. For example, like if I was to go to like a meeting, or if I was to go to class, the class doesn't get to walk out. The class doesn't get to pass by. The class kind of has to be there to listen. So, kind of like that. As well, we have to pay attention to the audience's prior exposure. The audience isn't going to listen if they've already heard it. They're going to be bored. They're not going to be. This is all old information to them. It's not new. 3 good questions when you're thinking about the prior exposure is: has the audience heard this before, or did it have a positive message on them, or did it have a negative? And if it was a negative or positive, what can you do to keep the positive being positive, or what should you change so it's no longer negative? As well as to pay attention to the prior disposition, like the audience's attitude towards your message. They could be sympathetic, which is pretty much favorable. They could be hostile, which they don't like what you're saying, or they could be neutral. But as well, sometimes you come into an apathetic audience, which is they don't care. So sometimes you might need to get them, maybe draw them in, maybe make them think of why they should actually pay attention or care to what you're saying. As well as you can also gather audience info before or during the speech. It's a little tricky though. You might have to take some surveys, get some audience interview, or maybe get a focus group before you do it. But one of the most important things is thinking on your feet. While you're giving the speech, pay attention to the audience's body language. If they're falling asleep, if they're awake, if they're falling asleep, if they're on their phones, if they're nodding in agreement, or they're giving you the stink eye and waving no, or they're speaking to others and like, oh my god, I can't believe they say that, or just the audiences, just pay attention to a lot of their body language. That's pretty much how you would how it influence how to put a speech together, especially paying attention to all that. That way you get everybody's attention. You don't have people drifting. You're not offending anybody by stereotypes. Very important, do not stereotype, do not assume the Asians do what the Asians do, the Mexicans do what the Mexicans do, the whites do what the whites do. Don't stereotype at all. As well as paying attention to sexual orientation, don't assume everybody in the room is straight. Make sure you are speaking